playing festivals have been huge for us because not only do we get to play in front of a million people, but like we talked about, we were able to connect with those people, actually become friends. And there are tons of people we've made friendships with.
I appreciate you doing this. And our podcast is about you, your journey in music, and we'll talk about the new record coming out.
Awesome. I am down to talk about all of it. Let's
Amazing.
talk.
The record's out on Friday, right? I mean, it's coming
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, it's coming out April 8th. And I'm really pumped, man. I mean, every album we try to, you know, improve from the last, and we play a lot of live shows, and
Mhm.
it's always a fun challenge to try to bottle up that live energy in a slightly more concise and directed approach in the studio. So it was cool to take some of those like classic live bangers and kind of hone it into a crisp, like concise studio version. And yeah, I think it came out great. I'm proud of it.
Amazing. I love the three. I think you got three records out off of the new album, right?
It's confusing. So we released one single at the end of last year, but we didn't mention anything about a new album. So technically,
Okay.
there have been four. That first one was
Oh,
it was Indiglo, featuring Zach Gill from ALO, which is just he's just an incredible musician. It was our first time collaborating with him, and that was another cool thing about this album because the pandemic caused us all to be home. It wasn't just my band that was home, but it was a bunch of
mhm.
band friends that were home. So we were able to call Zach and have him sit in. And we had Jason Hahn from String Cheese Incident play on a track, Move Like That, and a great horn section too on some tracks. So it was a unique time to be recording because everyone was available to join us.
Right. Okay, so I thought Elefante was the first one that was going to be on the record, but it sounds like there's four out now. Amazing.
It was confusing because the Elefante, I think, was the first single out of the bag once we announced that an album was coming. So,
Okay.
listen, man, I'm part of the band, and I was confused too. But
Okay.
yeah, we just been putting tracks out, and the whole thing I think really flows nicely together. That's one thing that we always focus on. It's almost like putting together a set list. We
Hmm.
want the tracks to have like natural peaks and valleys as they go through the record, so it's kind of one, big album, which is kind of funny because nowadays with Spotify and like, everyone can kind of choose songs a la carte more. uh
Hmm.
it's a question if like people still listen to albums top to bottom, first track to last track. We like to think that they do, and
I
either way
think they
we
do.
like, creating that, but creating that flow. But back, there were a couple of albums where streaming wasn't the biggest thing in the world
Hmm.
when we released them, and it seemed more important then than it does now to have each track flow into each other. But we still do it.
I love that though. To be honest, I mean, there's something about putting a record on and listening to it all the way through. And I've had this conversation before where it's like, you obviously chose, song three or song seven to be where it is because of a reason. It wasn't like you're just throwing paint at the wall, like, okay, this one should go number one and three and five. I mean, I'm sure you guys spent a ton of time listening to all the songs and figuring out the exact placement of each and every song on the record.
Absolutely. And that's why I think I'm not alone in this, where between listening to different mixes and listening back for adding parts and then listening for the order of the songs like over and over and over, once the
Mhm.
album's out, like I need a lot of time away from it before I listen to it again, if ever again. Like we've just
Sure.
heard it so many times. I love it, but I'll listen to other people's stuff for a little while.
Is it one of those things where you'll listen back and be like, I want to say I would have went back and did like not like regret, but like thinking even more, creatively on some song, like, oh, we could have done this or this or this.
Adam, that's a slippery slope, my man. That's just, like
A
we
rabbit hole you don't want to jump down.
well, I mean, knowing that could be the case, we really like comb through every song, and before we're in the studio, we're working on the arrangements, and we record all of our practices regardless, just to,
Oh, wow.
you know, um, yeah, that's been really helpful over the years. So we listen back, and that way, once we're in the studio, we're already feeling pretty confident that we know maybe it's a little crisper in the studio with the
Sure.
gear they have, but we have a good feeling that we know what to do. The other cool thing about this album compared to some of our others, and this probably goes for all the bands who have been recording, is that we actually had time to just focus on this record. Normally, we carve out a few weeks in between very busy touring schedules, and it's not long before we're right back on tour, and we have to then schedule time to listen to the mixes, and then in between shows go back and do some solos and stuff. This time with the pandemic and the lockdown, we had nothing on our plate but this record and a few live streams and stuff, and figuring out what the hell was going on.
Sure.
But we were afforded with like supreme focus, and I think like you'll hear it in the details on each song. Like one of our songs, we had a string section for the first time ever.
Wow.
And that's not something that like we've done before, and have even thought to really do. But we were listening to a track and we're like, this needs something. And normally maybe we'll add horns to something, we'll like maybe add some light keyboard because we don't have a key player or a pianist in the group. And strings felt right, and it was so exciting to like, I couldn't wait to hear what they came up with, and then like molding it from there. It was a fun experience.
Amazing. I know it's like having that much time on your hands. That's all. I mean, I'm sure it's just okay. We can have nothing but time, so let's just go crazy on this record.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we got it right. I mean, we put a lot of care into it, and it was fun. And similarly, like I sing, and sometimes I know I have like 3 days across a few days with some rest in between to record all the vocals. And this time, like if my vocals started to like fray a little bit, we're like, hey, just get some rest, come back in a couple days. Like we weren't against the clock like we normally had, which made it a much more enjoyable, relaxed experience, which hopefully again translates to the music. Like I'm proud of it.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of like confusing, you said you released a song and then it was like, now we have an album and here's the single, and now there's 4 out. The first record you guys released, that caused a little confusion with the title, and I want to get into that. But first of all, the band, you guys started in Baltimore, correct?
Yeah, we met at the University of Maryland. I
Okay.
met the guitarist literally on the first day of college.
Oh, wow.
We were on the same floor freshman year and ended up jamming the first day just to like make friends. And it was fun. And that's where the band is rooted from, is like just like friends getting together, having fun, playing. We would go out at night and come back and jam in the dorm room and make our friends laugh around us. And hopefully the music's gotten a little more serious over the years, but it still stems from that like camaraderie, and like this is just what like we naturally wanted to do, and I'm blessed to call it my job.
Yeah. Where did you originally grow up? Was it in Baltimore?
No, so the guitarist and bassist are from Baltimore. I grew up on Long Island in New York.
Oh, okay.
And I applied to a few schools, mostly looking at like sports and stuff. And I remember, I think it was the 2002 team, University of Maryland was amazing at basketball. They had Juan Dixon, and they made a run to the, deep into March Madness. So I always kept Maryland in the back of my mind. I looked at UNC and Duke and a few other of those like ACC basketball schools, and ended up at Maryland as the only person from my high school to go there that year. So again, like my first day of school, I didn't know anyone. So I just took my guitar, which I had only been really playing for roughly 6 months, depending on how you look at it. But
okay.
I always sang. So I kind of met my counterpart in Jeremy, our guitarist, because he always played guitar but never really sang. So we kind of became a good pairing.
You talked about basketball. Were you a basketball player or just a fan of basketball?
I was more of a soccer player, but I did play basketball and baseball and lacrosse and stuff. But soccer is what I played my whole like kind of childhood. But I did play basketball for fun all the time after school, and I was on the earlier side of my like grade growing up. I was one of the younger kids, so I also I was always a little smaller, so lacrosse didn't go great, to say the least. So I played basketball a bunch, but I also my best friend growing up was into like plays and musicals, and his
Oh,
mom
rad.
actually directed the musicals for the school. So I ended up from a very, very early age doing all of the musicals in my school would offer. And I think that's what, like, I didn't realize it at the time, but that has been humongously instrumental in like where I am today, is just being on stage since I can remember. It all
Hmm.
started at the kindergarten circus when
Wow.
I
Okay.
was 5 years old, and I was the doggy in the window. And I, I'm a pretty humble guy, but I have to say I killed it.
You did.
The crowd
Star of
responded.
the show.
The crowd responded. My lines, arf arf. I just, I might have gone method with it. I was barking all around my house, and I was ready for the moment. But no, I really did like take to being on stage, and hearing those first laughs and cheers really got me going. And between that and meeting my best friend at age 6, we started doing plays and musicals from 6 to 17,
Wow.
which
So
has
always, oh yeah, always a singer then, sounds like.
yeah, yeah. And
Okay.
I picked up the guitar for fun when I was like 14, played a little bit. I took or maybe I was 16, 14 or 16. Yeah, I think 14. Took one lesson, and he tried to show me like Mary Had a Little Lamb, and
Right.
I was done with it. Uh, and I just didn't want to do that. And I eventually picked up the guitar again when I was closer to 17, senior in high school, just to like learn what I wanted to learn. So I taught myself Stairway to Heaven, as you do, and
Wow.
that type of, with the help of the internet.
But
And
still, I would have went to like a 3 power chord like
Smoke on the
pop
Water.
song. Yeah,
Well,
right,
I might have
exactly.
Smoke on the Water was in the repertoire, but I
Okay.
started
But Stairway to Heaven.
accompanying the vocals, and I kind of pictured, I can blame like American media for like, you go to college, you have an acoustic guitar, you sing, you get the girl. Like that's like, you make friends at the campfire.
Sure.
So I wanted to try that, and I was able to sing in my room at home. And like I said, I've been playing for about 6 months when I went to college, and I didn't meet the girl, but I did meet the one of the loves of my life, Jeremy Schon, my guitarist.
There you go.
I
You
eventually
got
met
the
my wife through the music too, but that came way later.
okay. You got the black light poster and the incense and Stairway to Heaven, the
Oh
dorm, you're
yeah,
ready
I
to
was a
go.
regular at Spencer Gifts. Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I mean, we were doing the dorm thing, man, and then eventually we started playing like open mic nights as a duo, and coffee shops, and things like that. And I was so pitiful at guitar that those gigs would start with Jeremy doing a solo looping like guitar showcase for the first 15 minutes, and then for the last 10 I would come on and we would sing like ridiculous dorm originals. And we also would do like, we started doing mashups of covers really early, which we still do now for like themed shows on Halloween and New Year's and stuff.
Hmm.
But if you're a Fish fan at all, one of our classic covers was No Woman, No Farmhouse,
Okay.
which goes great together. So we would sing Bob Marley, we would sing
Hmm.
Fish, we would do Sublime covers, and really do that dorm rock thing. And then eventually, between meeting the other guys and getting a little better and listening to more music, we started getting really funky. And one thing that's always kind of laced through our music is that pure joy of just getting together and jamming. But now it's also all about having like danceable grooves, whether
Hmm.
and it's not just funk. We'll play island music, reggae, we'll play rock songs, but there's always like a danceable beat kind of happening in different forms. But we're always, when we go to concerts, we like to move and groove, so we try
Hmm.
to put that out on stage.
Did you start like was college when you started actually like writing lyrics and writing songs? Or were you doing that prior to getting to school?
I don't think I wrote a single original song until I met Jeremy, and we
Okay.
started putting stuff together. And for the first few years, he was writing the music. And I mean, still to this day, I generally write all the lyrics for the band. I do
Mhm.
ask them for opinions here and there, especially if they're singing backups or supporting lines. But yeah, starting the project with Jeremy is when I started writing lyrics. And I mean, it was really casual in the beginning, to the point where we would have the music down, but the lyrics weren't quite there yet. But we would still just play them live, and I would make them up on the fly. Um,
Okay.
and like over trial and error and practice with that, they would I would then have some set lyrics, and when it came time to record the album, I would have something, you know, ready to rock. Nowadays, uh, I am a little more or way more intentional with what I'm
Sure.
writing before we release it, but that's because people are actually listening. You know,
Right.
when we were playing house parties in some friend's basement, it didn't really matter what the word I was singing. It was more so about the melody and the energy.
Okay.
Nowadays, I've learned that if we release a song or we debut a song live at the next show, people are somehow already singing the lyrics, which is both really exciting and also that puts a little pressure on like what I'm actually saying.
Yeah, but that's huge to sing a song that hasn't even been recorded yet and have that resonate with people enough to they know the song the next time around or the next set or next show you do.
Yeah, it's wild. It blows my mind. Sometimes I like am confused because some people are trying to sing along to a debut we've never played, and I'm like, "Are you like a mole in our organization?" You know, how is
They might catch the chorus though the first
right?
time around and it locks in and they're like, all right, I'm going to get it on the next one.
The sign of a great chorus. That's right. But yeah, it's incredible. It really like seeing people sing our lyrics, whether they're older songs or new ones. It like it just doesn't get old. It's so exciting and it's encouraging to say the least that you
Mhm.
know these silly words are either resonating or they're fun to sing along to and it reminds me like how what an incredible opportunity we have as a band that has somehow made it from my friend's basement to some big like
Yeah.
stages and
Like Red Rocks coming up.
yeah like exactly you know it's really wild like again so this album is called Perspective and the songs range from songs we had never played live before when we released it
Mhm.
to songs that we literally wrote on stage 10 years ago and I was like I was saying I was making up the words on the fly. Some of them made it like some of them actually did make it to the album but like the track list runs the gamut of a decade of like memories for us and that's why but not only for musically, but obviously the last couple of years that we've all gained immense perspective. It just felt
Mhm.
like the perfect name for it. And that's, you know, I think the pandemic has granted us all an opportunity to step back and like look at the big picture in our lives and gain that perspective. It all added up really nicely in this time around.
And
It's
it
hard to
worked.
name albums.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
This
well, it
one
worked
felt right.
with the P theme that you have for all your records. I mean, aside from that first one, but so the band starts. You're doing the dorm shows, open mic nights, and when do you guys put out that first album? And tell me the story behind Funk EP and the confusion that that caused.
Yeah. The things that we learn trial and error well to go through it kind of quickly like I started playing with Jeremy we he met our drummer in a class called History of Rock. One of their
Oh, that's
assignments
cool.
was I think their first assignment was post in the message board on this classroom group you know the digital message board
Hmm.
and you know just post anything and I think my drummer might have either one of them, either my guitarist or my drummer said like looking to jam, and they connected, and that we wanted to play together. And another one of my guitarist friends had a drum set in his house, so the three of us, me, guitar, and drums, went to jam at this house in the basement. And once we started playing, my soon to be bassist sauntered down the stairs, picked up his bass because he lived at that house that we had the drum
Oh,
set.
interesting. Okay.
And it was actually unspoken. Like we were jamming and he came downstairs, picked up his bass and joined us. Like I guess he knew my guitarist because they're all we call Baltimore Smaltimore. Everyone kind of knows each other.
Okay.
They knew each other in passing, but my bassist Ben picked up the bass and all of a sudden like I was like, oh my God, like we're a band.
Hmm.
Like this is what I thought college was supposed to be, playing in a basement or um we weren't fraternity guys despite my interest in sports. I felt like when you go to a school like that you could join the fraternity or you could start a band, and that was just like my mental dichotomy, and I went band.
Sure.
um, Once we had a band we started playing bars locally, to mixed reviews. We were still figuring it out.
Mhm.
But we started to get some chops together, started to get some songs together, and we realized we have enough to like record an album, and why not, you know? So we went over to the campus radio station, where we had played a show, and laid down most of this album, Funk EP. One of the
And
songs
you
on it.
recorded that in the radio station's studio?
So
Or there
I
like
have
a
a
actual studio there as well?
I have a very bad memory. I'll warn you. I
Okay.
should have said this from the start. But
It's all
I
good,
think
man.
we
So
recorded
do
Funk
I.
EP at WMUC, the radio station on campus. And I know we cleaned up some of it and recorded like in our basement on the house we were living in at the time. Just, you know, we just kind of threw it together as like a fun project. And we called it Funk EP because one of the tracks is called Funk Ezekiel. Don't ask what that means, but we
Okay.
it was kind of a play on words with Funk EP because we're a funky pigeon band, the P there. And some of us in the band thought it would be funny because an EP is a short record, but
Record, yeah, yeah.
we had enough track time that it was actually a full length album. So it was an additional play on words that it was off Funk Ezekiel, we're Funk EP, and there's a space between E and P, so it's
Uh-huh.
not an EP. It's a play on the words Funk EP, and as an EP. And as it was happening, and I didn't really know about EPs that much. I'm not really like an audiophile to that extent at all. At least, especially then, I was like, I think this is confusing. Like, and like, no, it's funny. No, I think it's like too confusing. Like, I understand there's like two play on words happening, but it's a little weird. Like, no, it's who cares? So here's why who cares? You know, almost 15 years later, I'm still explaining it on a podcast. Who actually does care? So we didn't see this coming, you know, we're still, hopefully we're still just living in the moment and like incredibly like both baffled and appreciative that we're playing Red Rocks and we've done some crazy things that we never saw coming. And here I am still explaining that Funk EP, in fact, was our first full length album. It's not an EP, and you know, but it's solid. I like it. I remember speaking of track listing, we weren't sure if like this song should be first or this song should be first, and we had at the time we were just burning CDs, writing on like with Sharpie on them and
Mhm.
handing them out. We had printed out like a cover of it, but some of the original burnt CDs have a different track listing than what we actually ended up with because we weren't sure. So I guess we were kind of like A/B testing the track listing.
Oh,
So
okay.
some people out there might have a burnt CD with my handwriting on it with alternate track listing.
That's
Not
amazing.
that because it's a burnt CD probably has a value of -$1, but
Or more because you
they
wrote
are
on it.
they are out there. Yeah.
You wrote on it? I bet you could Discogs one of those.
Yeah.
Someone in Baltimore has that and they're selling it right now on
Yeah,
Discogs.
maybe. Oh man.
Wow. Okay. So that you released that record. Well, I know you've probably been asked this in every interview. And you have pigeons behind you in mass art, which I think is rad. I love the one. But what is that? Your degree above that?
Yeah, an actual proof that I'm not just a total goofball. That's my bachelor's from Maryland, and I studied communication, which
Same here.
oh really?
Yeah.
You're using it right?
I guess.
Yeah, I
Some will
wasn't.
say.
To be honest, I actually applied early decision to UNC with hopes of getting in, and I applied to Maryland kind of just as like a fail safe, and I was sure I was going to go into UNC, and it's a very tough school, and I didn't get
Mhm.
in. So when I went to Maryland, I didn't really have much of a plan. So I went undeclared and found myself um, gravitating toward communication, having been on stage for a million years and, you know, just
Mhm.
comfortable public speaking. But I found my way into the public relations department and ended up studying PR. And
Oh wow.
I was actually a TA for my news writing for PR class in college. And those 6 months of being like the last line of defense for other students to like get their grammar right and to get PR like looking correct paid
Mhm.
more dividends than the rest of my schooling at Maryland, because I was our PR guy for the first 8 years. So I wrote all the press releases. I still
Right.
do the emails. I still edit the press releases, and I'm still like grade, like it's almost like I'm still grading these papers like I did in college. Like I'll be like, oh well, technically, a song title has two quotes around it, but an album has single quotes. And if you're using a comma, the comma goes inside the quotes for APA. Now, the jam scene does not care about this, but I do.
You care.
I can't not see these grammatical errors and things.
You
So,
sound like my wife. She's so upset if people use like "you're wrong" or like,
oh yeah,
yeah, like,
I'm always like we can't present ourselves this way, like where the comma's wrong, or the comma's a small thing, but your and the your differences, things like that, like you just appear like. I always felt like if I was pitching a news outlet a press release and your was wrong,
yeah, I'd be like,
that's it. They're not going
then
to
I'd
do
be
it.
like, you are not getting this.
That's exactly what they said to their neighbor when they didn't respond to me. Now I think I could sneak a few typos in and they'll cover it, at least the
Yeah,
jam outlets. But
there you go.
yes, that's my degree and some other other.
Where's the pigeons come from? Are you just a fan of the bird?
Well, I know this is a audio medium, so
No,
we.
it's video too.
Oh, is it
We do,
really?
yeah, we put the video up.
Cool. Do
You
I
look
look good?
great. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, so we used to have stickers that my guitarist Jeremy made, because he also does graphic design, which has been hugely helpful. He
Yeah,
still
graphic
helps make
design
wonderful.
and a guy that can write press and PR. There you
Yeah,
go.
and Jeremy also studied business. Like it all came together. But he made like a spoof of the Andy Warhol four pane, like
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
different
say. That's what it
colors.
looks like.
And that's like a spin off of the, it's not the original image, but it's close to it, that someone made, that I threw up on there. I think my wife actually put it up for me. But
Looks good.
we had these little stickers, and speaking of handwritten stuff, what we would do is we would give them out for free, but if we were playing a festival, we would write our set time on the back of a sticker and then go out and just like be ourselves and make friends and
Hmm.
give them stickers and be like, hey, hope to see you at the, we're up, bright and early. I hope you're up on Saturday at noon on the third stage, but we'll be there.
Right.
And it actually worked. Like, I mean, people remember those stickers. People
Hmm.
came to, support us, especially like if we became kind of instant friends at the festivals. And that's something we did for years and years. And I encourage any band, to do something similar, like go out and, you know, hit the pavement and meet people and have fun doing it, and let them know of your show. And I mean, we've only done this for fun and to make friends, and we have year after year, from the earliest grassroots stages to playing these bigger spots.
Hmm.
And it's been a great, we're social guys, and it's been great to meet people and have fun doing it.
That means so much to people too. If you go out and say, "Hey, like my band is playing this festival that you're at, and here's a sticker. We'd love to see you, at the stage or whatever." Because now you're making, like you said, a connection with that person, and then once you put out your seventh record, there's the kid that's met you that one time. They're like, "Oh my gosh, like look at." They can kind of watch your career build and be
For
stoked
sure.
on the fact that they're one of the first people, one of the early, early fans or whatever.
Oh, absolutely. And though it means so much to us when we see someone who's been there from like the beginnings or the early days or whatever. And
Hmm.
we like to hope that like it kind of feels like we're doing this together, because we are. Because those people, like if they show one friend our music, we are doing this together. And I know like when I met people at festivals and saw them on stage, I was rooting my friends on. And if they crushed a solo, I'm like, that's my dude. That's my guy right there, like killing it. So it really has been a team effort, and we call our fan base the flock.
I love
Um,
it.
Part of our, I mean, our
The pigeon
guitarist
theme.
with his marketing, and but yeah, it's a pigeon theme, and our like the flock is so supportive, and we really feel like we're like making our way through this thing on their shoulders, and we, if we book a cool gig, it does bring back that perspective of like all of the years meeting people, and hopefully they're able to come or be proud because we're proud, and it's really been an incredible ride,
Hmm.
that I didn't expect, but once it started to shake out, like we're definitely doing everything we can, from these albums to touring, like every show, like we play with our utmost energy. Like, I'm coming from New York. I always said from the start, like I would always like kind of pep talk the bands, and the band, and they agreed, like, let's play this show like it's Madison Square Garden. Let's
Hmm.
play it like it's our last on earth. Like, let's give it everything. And that has never failed to make every show so much fun.
Hmm.
We're not so much like worried if we're going to book Red Rocks or wherever. Like, the chips will fall where they may. All we need to do is throw it down every time. And like, if we're having fun, like, the rest will come or it won't, but we're having a great time and trying to live our life to the fullest, on
Hmm.
stage and off.
That's amazing. What would you say, like, when did the ball start really rolling for the band? Like, what was, I mean, you guys obviously finished college, and then was it just like, okay, we're gonna go get a job now, or was it like the band's doing stuff, we should just tour? Like, when did you decide like this is working, we should, pursue this as our full-time thing?
Well, when we graduated college, we did take jobs. You know, some were odd jobs, some were like more legitimate jobs. But we also started touring, like, outside of Maryland, into like the neighboring areas like DC, Virginia, maybe like trickle into the Carolinas, like slowly making our way out regionally. And we were doing this on, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, if we could swing it, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then we would go back to work. And we were really starting to burn the candle at both ends, because we were, you know, like not getting sleep for when we got back to work. And then the shows, like, we're, at this point, of course, we're like loading in and ourselves, and playing all night, and we're sleeping on fans floors, and couches, and crashing at houses, and having a great time before going to sleep, and driving ourselves to the next one. And it really became like evident after maybe a year or so that,
Hmm.
like, having the jobs wasn't too sustainable.
Okay.
And I
But you
mean,
were obviously seeing a growth with the band, or you wouldn't have continued, I would
yeah,
think.
well, we were seeing, the more we were playing, the more we were like kind of putting on a hell of a show early on, especially being like 21 and absolutely full of energy, which I
Hmm.
still think we have that energy for sure. But yeah, I mean, we were getting a following, we were booking gigs, and eventually we were able to like string enough dates together throughout the year to like maybe support a very like poor lifestyle. I slept on a mattress on a floor for years, and just like, barely scraped together enough money for food, truly. But I was having the time of my life. And
Hmm.
eventually, I think about a year and a half after college, we all took the leap, and started touring full time, and really haven't looked back since. And, I'm so grateful it kind of worked out where I now have a bed frame. um
Wow.
it's big stuff. I'm not as worried where my next meal will come, or if I'm
Sure.
paying rent, or now a mortgage, being a musician. um so yeah, I mean, there were a few different, like, it's hard to pinpoint a turning point because everyone wants it to be like this like overnight thing, but we
Right.
were playing 200 shows a year for many years. And eventually, like, we started graduating to bigger venues, and we started to put, kind of climb up the festival lineups from the smallest font to like the, second smallest font, to the middle of
Hmm.
the pack, to now we're sometimes all the way at the top. And uh, those playing festivals have been huge for us, because not only do we get to play in front of a million people, but like we talked about, we were able to connect with those people. Next time we're in your area, we'll crash at your place, and if they're so kind to offer, and actually become friends. And there are tons of people we've made friendships with that have lasted throughout the years, and we kind of grow up together, both on stage and as people. It's wild to think back of when I met Jeremy with a guitar in my hand when I was 17, scared of like not having a friend at college, to now we both have kids and we're been full-time musicians for over 10 years, and it's just wild to look back on it all, and I'm excited for the future as well. But I'm also trying to consistently train myself to just like look down at your feet and realize you're here right now, and just,
Hmm.
focus on today. And we have band practice after this, and we're going to write some songs, and hopefully they like it, and maybe some people will sing along in a couple weeks.
Yeah, you got a big tour coming up. Well, I want to talk about that, but I'm curious on like you guys have done this all without a record label, right? I mean, you've
Yeah,
self-released all your albums.
yeah, we've done it independent this whole time. Our We met our manager. We played our college a bunch, and then we started playing some neighboring colleges, and he went to James Madison University down in Virginia, in
Hmm.
Harrisonburg. And we literally would go there to play his friend, like the house he lived at, his friend's basement. We would play in his basement, and it was huge for us. Like, even like, you don't need to play on stage at the local spot to get some fans and have some fun. And we used to go, those parties in his basement raged so hard. Like, they were some of the most important gigs early on for us,
Hmm.
and that's where we met him. And
Kind of have like a not a built-in fan base, but like a fan base that's going to be there. Like people just showing up to a party, like, oh, so and so's having a party, let's just go down there. And then,
yeah,
oh, there just happens to be this band playing. That's rad.
exactly. It was kind of like a built-in crowd. It was almost a smarter move at the time than to try to play like the bar and promote ourselves, and people would have
Right.
to go pay to go.
Have
Like,
to pay whatever it is, even a
if
few
they were,
bucks, but just to get them out of the house to get there
yeah,
versus just showing up to a
they were
party.
paying for the keg anyway, so they were coming downstairs anyway, and we're still friends with a lot of those people, and our manager has been with us ever since. That was, yeah, eight plus years since he officially managed us, and we've been able to release these albums independently. And we're also, I mean, now we could look around, because like, we've been slowly climbing the ladder, so to speak, or
Hmm.
more so, like, people are starting to care at all what we're putting out. It was easy in the beginning to just like record these albums and get them out there as best we could without like that much stakes involved or anything. It was just kind of a fun project.
Hmm.
And now, like, my manager has partnered with another great guy, and they have this group called 1111 group, and they have a ton of great acts like Oteil Burbage and Twiddle and Corey Wong, and amazing acts. And they have we work with it is a label this go around. So I guess,
Okay, so this is the first time you really release something with a label.
I suppose so. I'm not as intimately involved with that decision process, but yeah, I guess secretly the label is helping us get this one out for the first time. But it's
Okay,
all in house within our longtime manager, so it feels very mom and pop still to me.
that's awesome. So okay, I'm curious. You said 200 shows a year. Then the pandemic hits and there's zero shows. Like what? I mean, obviously it was tragic on many levels, but to kind of were you touring that heavily in up to 2019 into early into 2020?
No, I'd say we did about 200 shows a year for about 5 years or so. And then once you start, booking bigger venues, or more so even like bigger festivals, they add what's called a radius clause, where they don't want
Oh,
you
right.
to like play the festival down the street the next day. They want everyone, like all of our fans, to go to
To
their event.
go to the show. Yeah,
'Cause
even I know what you're saying. So like essentially if you were to play like Coachella, I get this that's the biggest example because I'm from Southern California originally.
Oh, cool.
Like you couldn't play LA or San Diego or I think San Francisco might have been the cutoff because I
Right.
remember
They would normally
seeing
put like miles, like they would be like 200 within, you can't play
yeah,
any of these cities within 250 miles with like a month before or a month after the event.
because they
And
didn't want your draw to go away from the yeah,
right,
the
they don't want to be like,
festival
I'll see
set
them down the street next week. I don't need to go to this event.
and spend
So
X hundreds
it
of
makes
dollars.
sense. The reason I bring that up is because back in the day, we would play like 4 festivals a weekend. We would, and sometimes in the same state, we would play
Wow.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and bounce around. once we started climbing up that festival ladder a little bit, they asked us to be more selective, and that started to like trim down our dates to maybe 150 a year. And then nowadays, or at least pre-pandemic, we were floating around 100, 110 shows a year,
But
maybe a
still, that's a
little
lot
less,
of shows.
especially with that's not like all the travel days, and we're going
Yeah.
for like probably half the year at minimum. We love it though, but we can go into work-life balance in a bit. But so I mean, we had an amazing summer lined up for 2020 that got kind of canceled along with
Uh-huh.
the NBA and everything else. Um,
Sure.
and I it it really made me realize like how much I almost like rely on that live energy as a part of my happiness. Like I equated it to like if you're addicted to running and then you were told you weren't allowed to exercise anymore, you lose that runner's high that like is part of your like life force.
Mm-hmm.
And it took a lot of adjusting and introspection to realize that like while it is amazing that I love playing live, I can't believe it's my job. Like this is like one of my favorite, possibly my favorite thing in the world to do. I mean, it is for sure
Mm-hmm.
playing live. It's also important to realize that like I can't depend on that to prop up my overall happiness as a person. Like I need to be happy as me, whether there's shows or not. And I learned that over the past couple of years. I also had the incredible opportunity, and obviously like the pandemic, it goes without saying, was a lose for so many reasons, and my heart
Sure.
goes out to anyone who lost anyone, got sick. I mean, it was just terrible. But in my personal world, my daughter was born during the pandemic, my first.
Congratulations.
Thank
That's,
you.
but I
Yeah.
mean that I'm curious on that. I keep saying that, but I have a 6-year-old later this month, and
Oh
an
cool.
older son as well. But like having your daughter during the pandemic, was it like weird restrictions where you couldn't be there, or like I wouldn't even know how they would operate that.
No, I was there for the birth and everything like that.
Okay, they weren't weird about that.
No,
That's good.
well, but it was so there's two sides of having a baby in the pandemic. And as a touring musician, what I see the most is that I cannot believe I was home virtually the entire first year of her life. I
That's
never
amazing.
thought I would get that ever. I mean, I love touring. I know it comes with some sacrifice, namely on the home front, like for my
Hmm.
wife and now my family. Like I am not here a lot, and it makes me make the most of it when I am here. But I never thought I would get this time to watch her grow every day and be there for the milestones. I was there when she took her first steps.
So
I
cool.
heard her like piece together words. I'm watching her hair grow by the centimeter.
Yeah.
I never thought I would be there for that. So I'm incredibly grateful for it. The flip side of it is that we were sanitizing every single thing that came into our house
Oh,
like crazy
yeah.
people. And, granted, you do with it however you want. We would rather err on the side of caution than regret like taking it
Right.
too easy. I'd rather regret
Exactly.
being too cautious than regret taking
Of
it easy.
course.
So we were like, when we got our groceries, it was a huge like delousing process of like spraying it with this high powered disinfectant, letting it sit for 5 minutes, then hand wiping it all down. Meanwhile, I got to keep the baby away from it, keep the dogs away from it, put it away. Like it like I dreaded going to the grocery store because I knew it
Yeah.
was going to be like a ordeal to
All
get it.
day ordeal.
Yeah.
Right.
So we were certainly, first time parents are typically paranoid, and that throw a pandemic on top of it. I'll be the first to admit that we were pretty paranoid about it. But again, I wouldn't trade, seeing my daughter grow up for the world. And it's especially easy to say that now that music is back and I'm back on tour and I get that,
Hmm.
person to person experience. I mean, we all, for those 2 years, we started doing live streams. We throw a music festival that had to be canceled one year, but we did it virtually instead. Um,
Awesome.
and then the following year in 2021, we did it in person, but in those pods where everyone had their own like,
Yeah.
personal space that they
Square.
couldn't leave and with masks. And it's nice nice is an understatement to see like normal kind of concerts coming back. And the energy in the crowd has been nuts because everyone missed it so much, ourselves included. So like all of us are just like, let's make the most of this. Like we're back. Like this is incredible. Like tour has been awesome. It's been so. We just did a 3-weeker out west. We're about to go through the southeast in support of the album, and it's been. We got a great summer lined up. We're playing Red Rocks. Our festival is back for the first time in now 3 years in a normal full
A normal setting.
yeah, it's coming up in May. It's called Dome Fest.
Where do you guys do that at?
This year it's in Ohio. We've had a few
Oh.
different locations. It's my guitarist started the festival. He produced it since day one, and it was kind of like a project his senior year of college. He got some funding
Wow.
from a student group and threw like a 1-day, 1-night rager. It was $5 and free beer. It was so much fun.
Oh wow, that's a deal.
It was.
I mean, even if you didn't like the bands, $5 for free beer,
dude, it was incredible. And that 1-day, 1-night experiment has blossomed into a full-blown music festival, and Pigeons has been able to like headline the event now as we've, kind of gotten the chops to do it. And so it's all of our like closest fans and friends coming together. I call it like the cream of the flock who come. It's like
love it.
We're playing like 6 sets this year, but this year we also kind of upgraded the lineup quite a bit. We have Lotus and a bunch of other amazing jam bands like Spafford and Sun Squabby and Star Kitchen, which has members of the Disco Biscuits, and there's a side project of the band Goose, who we had open for us before the pandemic and or right into the pandemic, and now they are just absolutely crushing venues all over the country. They're playing like sold out Red Rocks, Radio City Music Hall. Like they're just killing it. It's amazing to see that band explode. And they've played Dome Fest in the past too. And one of the cool things about Dome Fest, which I've helped produce for the past 6 years now too with Jeremy, is we're able to give back to bands who need that crowd in the early stages, just like we did when we were handing out stickers, like we were talking about. So it's really come full circle to, we know firsthand how important it is to have a festival that music fans actually check out the early bands and then go and see them when they're in their town after the festival. So we really promote that by having no overlapping sets at the festival. Everyone sees the same bands at the same time, and that gives each band a real shot to like steal the show and make some fans. We encourage them to go out in the crowd and hang out and hand out their stickers and like make friends. So when they come through, each person's area, those folks come out and support them. So it's been amazing to watch some of these bands like Goose, who played our festival, go on to like sell out Radio City Music Hall in like a day. Like it's
That's
amazing
so
to
nuts.
have a small part of their story, and it feels like very reciprocal because we've come up through the ranks in a similar fashion elsewhere.
Yeah, and I mean, you guys are doing huge things too. Red Rocks, obviously. I was just looking at your early tour schedule. Like, I'm from San Diego. You guys played the Observatory, which is a fairly big. I mean, it's a big venue there.
Great, it was cool. It looked awesome.
Yeah, and it's the kind of the coolest aesthetic in as far as the venue goes there. And then you're doing I'm in Nashville now, and you're doing 2 nights of the Brooklyn Bowl.
Yep.
Which is crazy. I'll come to the second night. The first night's my son's 6th birthday, as we were talking about.
Awesome. We'd love to have you out. We'll connect.
Are you staying in the city?
Well, because we have 2 nights there, we're gonna fool around in Nashville. I'm hoping to like pop in some of these music stores, and we might be able to like, TBD on if we can like, stream from one of the shops. But we love Nashville. It's such a music town.
Yeah.
And it's cool because like all of these venues, like they're starting to get bigger. I mean, they have, depending on how long we've played in these areas, but we started in the smallest of small venues. I mean, San Diego, we played at the Casbah. Have you ever been?
Oh, that's my all-time favorite venue in San Diego, but
not Big Scott.
No, I think it's a 200 capper little bar.
But
think
raged,
iconic, man. I mean, Nirvana played there.
Yeah, I know. Like, Nirvana, no doubt.
White
like,
Stripes, Foo Fighters, like yeah.
We all like kind of pay our dues, and again, like we played that show like it's Madison Square Garden. We played the Observatory years later like it's MSG, and that way, if we ever do go back there, we'll be ready. We actually did one of the crazier things we've ever done. We got to play a halftime show at Madison Square Garden for a Knicks game, which
Whoa,
was
that's
uh,
crazy.
before you go too crazy, it was 8 minutes long, but
But it's
it was
still a halftime
crazy.
show at the Knicks game.
Yeah, I mean, coming from New York, that was like a total pinch me moment. Like just being able to walk on the court and seeing their locker rooms and like having
Man,
laminates that say MSG and Pigeons Playing Ping Pong. It was totally surreal. Like we got to drive our little van into the garden. It was so cool. So I only bring that up because we've been saying let's play this like it's MSG, and then we finally, when we were ready to play MSG, we were ready. I was like,
yeah.
I guess let's just play this. You know, we've been
Let's
training for this.
play this.
Um,
Oh, I love it.
but yeah, it is amazing. Like some of these venues we're playing, like we were supposed to play the Tabernacle in Atlanta, and that show got canceled right before, like 3 days before it, when the pandemic hit back in March 2020. So it's been over 2 years in the making to finally play that epic room, and all of these shows are great. But again, like put me in your basement, dude. We'll have a great time. Like I just want to play. It's like such an outlet for all of us, and it's you know that has never changed, and I don't think ever will.
I love it. Well, you're more than welcome to cruise over, man.
Awesome.
You'll be in town for 2 days. So, and you're doing Bonnaroo, which hopefully I'll be able to see you at as well. You're doing Saturday Bonnaroo, which is amazing. I mean,
Yeah, late
and
night. It's
yeah,
we've been honored to play Bonnaroo before late night, and it is crazy. I mean, and it's so fun. It's such a big festival that like you could have an enormous crowd, and then behind that enormous crowd is just like people walking to like different stages. And while I'm playing, I'm always like, I'm gonna make those guys stop and join.
stop.
Like you're not gonna get to the stage you're trying to go to, and that's the beauty of Bonnaroo. Like I
That's
love no
awesome.
overlapping sets, but it's also fun when you can pick and choose, and on your way stop and find a new
Check
adventure.
somebody out.
So
Right.
it's always a challenge to like, oh, I'm gonna make this. You know, that one with the hula hoop. She's not getting to the show she wants to. She's coming to us.
I
We're
love it. Well, Greg, man, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your time. I can't wait to see you here in Nashville and then at Bonnaroo. I'll catch your set there as well. But one last question for you. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Sure. Well, and thank you so much for having me, man.
Dude,
I
anytime.
enjoy the podcast. I listened to the Green Sky episode,
Oh, cool.
and you
Oh,
were
he was
talking about
great.
he's a trip, man. I don't know Anders that well, so it was cool to hear him
He's
talk
very
about.
dry. Like
Yeah,
he got me a couple of times where I'm like, he's either messing with me or he like immediately hates me off the bat.
right. Well, I think he prefaced that where if you don't know him well, you could think he's a dick. I didn't think
Right.
he was a dick.
No,
Honestly, I think he was
no.
a great guy.
I think I was able to sway him throughout the episode. And then like it was cool to see he like gets the text of
Oh,
being on the cover of that magazine. I mean, like that was what
unbelievable.
timing.
Unbelievable. But his alarm also went off at the start of the interview, which was rough timing. I guess you were early. Rookie move. You got to set the alarm 10 minutes before and turn that puppy off.
But I
But
love that's the beauty of it. That's why I love doing this podcast because I came from radio where it was like so strict with making sure everything sounded ridiculously polished, and the little things like that make this so much more fun for me and
well,
hopefully enjoyable to people watching. Like, oh, that's awesome that his alarm just went off. Like, why
well,
not?
well, for aspiring musicians, I would say make sure your alarms are off when you do a podcast interview. Step one. Um, like there's a my main advice is to have fun doing it, and don't be patient. Like, you're it's all about the journey, not the destination. If you can make it about that and you can have fun doing it, like it will come when it comes in terms of, the dream you have in your head. But if you are, genuinely enjoying yourself during the process, it's never work. It's never like, you're right where you're supposed to be. I also would say, like, while it's, yes, it's all about fun, behind the scenes, it's work. And by work, I just mean like practice your instrument, take lessons from people, talk to other musicians, be a sponge, and when you're playing with other people, like you practice at home. So once you're live, you can just like flow with it. Don't practice on stage while you're playing. Like, you listen to each other when you're jamming, and, like support the music around you. You make choices on stage that help your bandmates, not it's not an opportunity to show all the homework you did, like it's like, hey, look how fast I can play. It's, if would playing fast right now help elevate the group sound, then do it. If playing slow does, or doing something like easier to help highlight another member, do that. So ultimately, like, make the most of your opportunity, work your butt off, and then just don't take yourself too seriously and have fun doing it, because life is about enjoying the moment. So like, don't get caught up in the future or the past. Just like, live in the now, give it your best, give yourself a break, and enjoy it.